So the Fallout TV show is out.
Yes, I watched it. It was pretty good.
Yeah, you liked it?
I did, yeah.
What did you like about it?
Why I enjoyed the Fallout TV show better than I thought I was going to. I thought it was going to be pretty
A book
average.
report by Mike Burnfire.
No, I'm not filling that out. It was all off the cuff, right off the top of my head. I enjoyed it. It was a fun and enjoyable story that kept me guessing, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. It took the story in new and interesting ways and didn't repeat the exact same dramas we've seen several times over. But it also perfectly captured the aesthetic of the Fallout series, specifically Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. That's the aesthetic they were going for, and they nailed it. I watched the first 2 episodes trying to write down my thoughts and critique it, write down the things that I thought was doing bad. And for the most part, it was just a bunch of nitpicks. I had a couple of small little minor notes, but by the time I got to the 3rd episode, I just enjoyed it. I just stopped trying to take notes, and I just enjoyed the show for what it was. I enjoyed all 8 episodes. Got a little rocky in the 6th episode. We could talk about that. I don't want to get into spoilers right off the bat, but
yeah, just so you know, this video is probably going to be really heavy on spoilers.
Eventually,
so
yeah.
If you haven't finished watching the series, don't watch the rest of the video.
Before we get to the
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll give you a summary at the very beginning of it, so that you can know what we thought about it without hearing spoilers. Mike apparently loved it. I did not like it.
Okay.
So there you go.
Without getting into spoilers, could you tell me what you didn't like about it? Or...
There is a lot I didn't like about it.
Okay, then I guess we're going to have to go into spoilers immediately.
I'm not just going to dump on the show for the entire thing. The show did do a lot of things right.
Okay.
The show is incredibly well acted. Everyone in this show did an amazing job.
Absolutely. Of all my little nitpicks, none of it was about the acting.
No, they all did they did a very good job. I'm really impressed. I didn't even know that the lady that played Lucy was British. I
didn't know that either.
Like, I'm sure that if I watched more live action movies, I probably would have been able to tell, but, like, I had no idea. They all did a really good job. I have no critiques about how anyone acted in this show.
No, the acting was great.
And, like, the set design, the world of the show, looked really good. I love that the little town that she goes to is called Philly. Like, I love that detail. I absolutely love it, because you're nowhere near Philadelphia. You're in California. You're in fucking Hollywood. You're nowhere near Philadelphia, but it's called Philly because it was in a landfill. Like, I love that.
I didn't even piece that together.
Oh, yeah, it's called Philly because it used to be a landfill, so it's Philly. I love that. That's great. That's, like, the kind of stuff that I love to see.
Okay.
But I feel like the writers kind of stopped thinking about Fallout after that point.
After episode 2 or 3, you think?
After they came up with the idea for Philly. I thought that was really neat. I would argue that it being well acted and it looking like Fallout are the bare minimum. I would argue that those are the bare minimum the show has to do.
Okay.
Because if the show had come out and it was really, really poorly acted, people would not be happy about it.
Sure.
If the show had come out and it didn't look anything like Fallout, people would not be happy about it.
But it was a Fallout TV show and it was well done.
It definitely was a Fallout TV show of all time.
You knew you weren't gonna like it. You said you weren't the target demographic. Was it better than you thought it was going to be?
I will be honest, I fully expected the show to be really poorly acted and to not look good. I fully expected it to be trash, and it did deliver on being well acted and looking good. There's a lot of stuff that I thought was neat that they included from the Fallout games. But I also feel like the only reason they included it from the Fallout games was little remember berries of, remember VATS? Remember the slow motion death cam?
Wait, VATS? When is
there's a scene where the ghoul is shooting a bunch of raiders, and it plays out in slow motion like when you shoot stuff in VATS.
Oh, yeah.
And it does like the Fallout death cam where it follows the bullet before it goes into a dude.
I didn't get the VATS vibe from that. You'd think I would piece that together, but I just thought, that's some cheesy slow-mo.
No, they did it because it's VATS.
Was that in episode 1 or 2? That was back.
I can't remember what episode it was. I'm gonna address my biggest complaint with the show, which is the lore, what they did to the lore.
Okay, immediately going into what happened in episode 6, or do you have anything?
No, just overall, over the entire show.
Okay.
I feel like they went out of their way to muddy the lore. I'm not saying they ruined the lore or made it better or worse, but they definitely muddied it up and divided the entire fan base over it. Because the discourse I have seen online about this has been I love this show or this show is literally killing me.
It seems very divisive.
It's incredibly divisive. And to that end, it's a fucking TV show. Go outside. It's a TV show. One of the reasons that I care about this so much is because in a roundabout way, I am a Bethesda employee now.
If you want to look at it that
because
way.
Most of our content is based around Bethesda games.
Sure.
So, like, I kind of have to care about the lore of the games.
If you didn't feel that obligation, would you have walked away from this show?
If I didn't feel that obligation, if we didn't have this channel, if we didn't have the channel where we played Fallout games, and I didn't feel like I had this obligation to know the lore behind Fallout, then I wouldn't have watched the show.
Or would you have been able to watch the show without worrying about the lore?
I probably wouldn't have watched it because I don't really watch TV shows.
Oh, fair enough.
If I was just, Johnny off the street, I probably would have watched the show and been like, yeah, okay, whatever. That's fine. If I was like Zach in college, I probably would have been like, yeah, all right, whatever. But I mean, Zach in college, Fallout 4 hadn't come out, so I probably would have been absolutely stoked about this. I have some examples of stuff they did specifically to muddy the lore.
Before we get into specific examples, let me just say that the Fallout games already had some muddled lore. There was a lot of stuff that contradicted each other.
Yeah.
If you look into, for example, why the world got nuked in the first place, there's a couple different... It's very vague. There's evidence in Fallout 3 that maybe aliens did that, which kind of
I have very strong opinions about how they addressed the cause of the Great War. Do you want me to get to that now, or do you want me to wait and get to that later?
We can get to whatever you want to get to. We can skip right to the end.
Well, let me address the thing about because we're talking about the lore implications of the show, and let me address my opinions on how they handled the cause of the Great War. I really, really dislike that they made Vault-Tec the big bad guy.
And it was always somewhat implied.
It's always somewhat implied, yes, but generally speaking, throughout the Fallout games, Vault-Tec no longer exists. Yes, there are things like the Zax computers, and yes, there are like ghouls that were pre-war, like the overseer of whatever the vault is in Fallout 4 that you can go to, that's one of the DLCs. Yes, there's examples like that. Generally speaking, though, Vault-Tec is dead and gone.
For the most part, yeah.
I don't like that they made Vault-Tec the big bad guy and that they still exist and that they're still doing stuff.
Like the entirety of the Great War was something that they made happen so they could colonize the world by themselves.
Yeah, which seems incredibly short-sighted and stupid. We can basically make people go into vaults and we can keep them in there indefinitely. You could stage that the Great War is happening, all of the people go into vaults, and now you have a captive population that you can just run experiments on for as long as you want.
Yeah.
And then when they all fucking die, you do another one. The thing that irritates me about that is the same thing as when you show the alien in a monster movie, or when you show the monster in a monster movie, you do that in the final act. Because when you show it, it loses a lot of its scariness. It loses its impact. That's like when they came out with the like Hannibal Lecter prequel movie. That movie was not good because what you just did is you took Hannibal Lecter, this character who you can't see into his mind. His mind is inscrutable. He's genuinely terrifying. And you have now made him, you understand exactly why he is.
So he loses a lot of his intimidation.
It loses almost all of the intimidation because you understand that he is the way he is because of what happened to him. It's a lot scarier when they don't reveal who the big bad guy is. Also, the other point I would argue for Fallout is one of the overarching themes of Fallout is that war never changes. Not corporate greed will destroy us all. The Fallout TV show is definitely indicative of the time it was made, where it's like giant mega corporations are bad and they're streaming it on Amazon, which is massively ironic to me. Anyway, if I had been in charge of writing this, or if I was in charge of writing for Fallout, and Lord knows I would do a much better job than Emma would. Do you know what I would say would be the cause of the Great War?
Do tell.
We don't know. I would never say. I would just be like, no, we don't know. We have no idea what caused it. You get to guess.
Yeah.
Because it's a role-playing game. And when you start setting things in stone for your role-playing game, that takes away choices from the player. So if for example, Fallout was only a tabletop role-playing game, If I say we don't know what caused the Great War, that opens a whole realm of possibilities for the GM of the tabletop game where they can say, oh, well, in my headcanon, it was this that caused the Great War or whatever. If you forced me to, gun to my head, what caused the Great War, it was an accident. It was, I don't know, a fucking bear climbed over a fence at a missile silo and somebody sounded an alarm and the telephones were down. Or the moon rose and the moon coming up out of the sky triggered the fucking early warning system so everyone just launched their nukes. Because those are things that actually fucking happened that almost caused World War III. I think an accident is a much better cause of the Great War than corporate greed.
And I think you could have those two things together. I agree with you in the sense that it might have been better to keep things vague, but that's not the direction they chose. If they wanted to go with the message that corporate greed caused the Great War, that's fine. It might have been better to not make Vault-Tec cartoonishly evil, because when you turn that into a caricature of itself, then it's easy to just say, oh, just don't be evil. But if you showed Vault-Tec perhaps petitioning for laws to be loosened and making it more likely for war to be happening, even though maybe they're not directly wanting war, even if they'd benefit from it, things like that. Because that happens in real life. You get all these regulations being loosened because of corporate greed, and that causes a lot of problems. And that could very well have been a teachable moment for modern society, as opposed to just making a cartoonish parody of itself.
I actually completely agree with you on that. If they had made Vault-Tec more of like a modern day military-industrial complex type of thing, like a Raytheon or a Lockheed Martin or any one of those large companies that build all kinds of weapons, where they're just constantly petitioning for, no, you guys need more nukes. You need more nukes. They're doing like fear-mongering to try to sell more weapons. That would make more sense than they're causing the Great War so that they can rebuild society. And then after the Great War happens, when one of them leaves the vault and discovers that they're rebuilding society without them, he blows it up.
Which one was this?
That's Lucy's dad.
Oh,
He blows up blows up Shady Sands, which goes back to muddying the lore. They did a lot that I think is really weird to muddy the lore. Like, why do ghouls need to take drugs to stop from turning feral?
Yeah, that wasn't in the games.
Why specifically blow up Shady Sands? Why is power armor not actually armor anymore?
Well, it kind of is, isn't it?
This made me really mad because power armor is you are in a walking tank. In Fallout, I believe 1, you can get shot while wearing power armor and they can literally do critical damage to you and it still does 0 damage, and it says you kind of bonk your head on the visor and you get a really bad bruise on your nose, which, honestly, it's not that bad. It'll probably get you laid when you go to the bar later.
All right.
In the TV show, dude wearing power armor runs away from a bear like a little bitch, and then gets killed in the power armor by the bear. We have bear-proof armor now. It was made by a crazy Canadian man. We have bear-proof armor now. Why did they turn, and then they...
Well, to be fair, the bear didn't do a whole lot of damage to the guy. The guy panicked, and he fled instead of fighting for a prolonged... He did tokenly fight back for a little bit, but then he ran away, gave himself a concussion and maybe some internal bleeding. Yeah, maybe the bear did some of it.
How did he give himself a bunch of the internal bleeding? The bear had to have done that. It's very silly to me, and it's kind of like how in Fallout 4 they made power armor basically pointless. Like, it just falls apart constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Which, honestly, to be fair, would make sense in a post-apocalypse where this armor is 200 years old. It would make sense that if you find pre-war armor, it's just going like plunk and falling apart.
It's all brittle.
But it's the Brotherhood of Steel whose only goal is to maintain technology. So you would think that they would maintain their power armor a little bit better than something made out of aluminum foil that can't stop a bear. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry to have got off on a tangent about that.
It's all good.
One of the other things specifically about lore that really pissed me off, and it wasn't necessarily about the TV show, but it was Emil, who's like the head writer for Bethesda. You've played Fallout 1. You remember the intro sequence to Fallout 1 where it shows like the like war footage of, our US soldiers annex Canada, and then there's like a looter, so one of them... the 2 dudes in power armor, one of them takes the gun from the other guy and shoots the dude in the head.
I was actually playing that game earlier today, just kind of as I felt like playing it, and the introduction is support our soldiers, and it shows... I believe 2 Americans in power armor executing a Canadian who had surrendered. His hands are bound, and like, yeah, they're waving at the camera.
They're laughing about it.
Yeah.
Emil tweeted that not the one that did the shooting, the one that gave him the gun is Nate in Fallout 4.
Oh, interesting.
Again, the only purpose of that tweet is to drive engagement, and it's people are talking about Fallout, so I better make a hot tweet about it. So he did that. It was more engagement, more clickbaiting. All that did was make Fallout fans really fucking mad because you've now turned Nate into a war criminal.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you wanted to make Nate a war criminal and that came up, that's fine. But don't just kind of like toss it out there. Oops, we just turned this protagonist into a war criminal.
And it took more role-playing away from the role-playing game. I think the purpose of the Fallout, and again, if I did not like the show, and I think the purpose of the Fallout TV show was twofold. One, get more people to play Fallout games that are already existing. Because it costs a hell of a lot of money and time to make a role-playing game. Comparatively, doesn't cost much money to make an 8-episode TV series or a whole lot of time. Comparatively.
Sure.
Then the TV show comes out. Now you have a whole new generation of Fallout gamers that are going to pay money for a thing that you already made.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I really, really think that the second hidden purpose of the show, tinfoil hat conspiracy time, was to take more role-playing elements out of Fallout and turn it into a looter, shooter, action-adventure type of game.
Okay. That is a bit of a conspiracy theory. I'm not sure I would subscribe to it, but...
Because it's a lot easier to make an action-adventure, looter-shooter type game than it is to make a story-driven, multiple-choice role-playing game.
What gives you reason to believe that's the case? Just because of how streamlined
Because that's what they've been chipping away at since Fallout 3. Fallout 3, there's really not a whole lot of endings to that game. There really is only one ending to Fallout 3.
Uh-huh.
It's a role-playing game in that you can choose how your character interacts with other people. But at the end of the day, the choices you've made in the game don't particularly matter.
And then in Fallout 4, they gave you a bit more freedom. You could side with multiple different factions and approach a couple quests in different ways.
I would still argue that Fallout 4 is less of a role-playing game than Fallout 3 is, because the character is voiced and your options for when you interact with people are yes, sarcastic yes, no, but yes, and I'll come back later and say yes.
I believe they've already admitted that was a design decision that they made that was a bad idea and they wouldn't revisit that, which is why they don't have that in Starfield. If your argument is that...
However, Starfield has the same fucking problem.
If your argument is that Bethesda is trying to be more streamlined, and we're kind of veering away from the TV show, but if you're arguing that Bethesda wants to make less RPG and more streamlined stuff, then they probably wouldn't have infused more RPG elements into Starfield, added more RPG elements that...
They didn't add more Starfield, or more RPG elements into Starfield, though. Starfield is very, very linear. I put a lot of time into Starfield, right?
Okay.
I put a lot of time into Starfield. And yes, a lot of it was shipbuilding. Shut up. I put a lot of time into Starfield. And a lot of the choices that you make in that game are very similar to Fallout 4, where it's, I say yes, I say a sarcastic yes, I ask a couple more questions, and then I say yes, or I'll leave and come back later and say yes.
Right. I don't know how we got here from... I wanted to talk about the Fallout TV show, and now suddenly I'm defending the role-playing elements that I personally didn't even think were there as much as I would have liked in Starfield.
I really feel like they removed a bunch of lore elements, and they set a lot of stuff in stone specifically to remove RPG elements from the Fallout universe.
I don't believe that was their intention.
I think it was.
I think they just wanted to tell a specific story. You can't leave things up to player imagination if you're trying to tell a specific story.
And I agree with you, but you don't have to make so many overarching massive decisions. If you want to tell a specific story, you don't have to fucking nuke Shady Sands. If you're gonna do that, you better have a really good fucking reason for it. And it better not be a throwaway thing.
Which it kind of was, in Season 1 at least. I agree with you about it, the lore being a bit muddled, because I saw that. That happened in Episode 6, I believe, where they tell you that Shady Sands was nuked, and they show the timeline of when that happened, and it happened, it says on their chalkboard, the fall of Shady Sands, 4 years before the events of New Vegas, and I thought, what are the implications of this? Because does that retcon New Vegas? Because people are talking about Shady Sands in New Vegas, but then they come out and say, well, the downfall isn't the nuking. The nuking happens after the events of New Vegas. So then, I guess, now what's the downfall then?
This is what I mean about them intentionally muddying the lore. The other thing that I've been incredibly disappointed with is a lot of the fan reactions I've seen. I don't know if you remember, but right after it aired, there were so many people online being like, they nuked New Vegas! New Vegas is gone! New Vegas is gone! And then it's like, you didn't even fucking watch the show. What were you looking at? New Vegas is right there. It's in the end of the show. Mm-hmm. It's right fucking there.
It is. They really teased that in season 2, they're going to be more in Vegas. Like, we're going to see Vegas, maybe see the NCR. Leading up to this first season, people were worried about the lack of NCR, but they didn't want to tell a story about the NCR, so they just didn't show the NCR. But the NCR is still there, apparently.
And again, I will say that there was stuff that I really liked about the show. The show was incredibly well acted. The whole, subplot of what was going on in Vault 33, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I would have loved if that was the entire show. If you wanted to tell a new story, and you wanted it to be interesting and engaging and still be in the Fallout universe, you could have the show take place pre-war, like they did, where it's like the bombs are going off, they run and they get into the vault, and then the rest of the show takes place in the vault.
And that would have reduced the production quality as well.
And then you get to have both your Fallout world and you get to have your goofy 1950s world. Mm-hmm. You could have done that. Because that's a whole thing in Fallout that people really enjoy is exploring the vaults and finding out what happened there. You have an entire show that is now about what happened in this vault.
Your opinion on Fallout TV show was the same as your opinion on Fallout New California. Why'd you let me leave the vault? It's better inside.
Yeah, kinda. I thought the story for the TV show was decent, but I also thought that it was kind of trite. Mm-hmm. Because Lucy's story is basically just Fallout 3.
Yeah, they did rely on that trope of gotta go find that family member again.
A child is forced to leave a vault because of the actions of their father, that they do not realize the depth of their actions until later. Mm. They're forced to leave the vault in search of their father for answers and to get their family back. To a lesser extent, the Ghoul's story is an evil playthrough of Fallout 4. Of a father trying to get his daughter back.
I suppose there are some overlaps with the premises, but I never really felt like the Ghoul was Fallout 4.
No,
I didn't really make these.
There's parallels, but it's not the exact. That's why I said to a lesser extent. There's parallels. It's not the exact same story, but it is very similar.
I can see traces of it. I can make the connection, but does that mean that any show where a parent is looking for their child is Fallout 4?
No, but it's a trite story. It's been done several times.
I don't wholly disagree with you. I thought, especially at the end of episode 1, like the scene where the Raiders confront the Overseer and then make him choose between his daughter and these other members of the Vault, that did feel very contrived. There were a couple of moments, especially in the first episodes, where I went, that feels very contrived, and I do not like that. And those feelings generally went away by the 3rd episode for me.
Yeah, my problem with the show is the overarching lore implications of what they did, and I feel like there wasn't a good reason to do that. Yeah, I feel like the reason to do that was basically to drive up engagement. You get people talking about the show. You're gonna bring in a whole new group of Fallout, or people that want to play Fallout games. They're already done. They're already out. You don't have to make those games. Mm-hmm. So it's been 10 years since Fallout 4 came out.
The latest Fallout game was Fallout 76. I know you've forgotten. You're eager to drop that, but it came out 6 years ago. So that game came out 6 years ago. And probably going to be a decade before Fallout 5 comes out, so this is here to tide us over.
I don't think Fallout 76 is a good Fallout game, though.
Right, but that is what Bethesda wants people to play. They want
Fallout 76 is definitely not a role-playing game.
But it is a Fallout game, and they do have some similarities, of course, and they do tie in, they do make references to each other. So you can get Fallout TV show loot inside Fallout 76. People that are playing Fallout 76 can be advertised the TV show back and forth.
Again, I bring up, I really think that Bethesda is trying to move away from making role-playing games.
I don't think they're trying to move away from it, but I do think they're not very good at it.
They're at least not very good at it, because, consider the evidence. Fallout 3, not really a role-playing game. Fallout 4, not really a role-playing game. Fallout 76, definitely not a role-playing game.
They do seem pretty lackluster compared to other RPGs we've had this generation.
Yeah, and like I said, I do tinfoil hat conspiracy. I do really think that they made this show because it's been 10 years since Fallout 4 came out. It's been 6 years since Fallout 76 came out. There's nothing on the horizon about Fallout 5.
Yeah, so making the Fallout TV show seems to be a pretty smart idea.
So that's a fast and cheap idea. Comparatively cheap. Everything is fucking expensive.
Yeah.
That is a fast and cheap idea to get more people interested in Fallout without having to push a game out faster.
I agree, and I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. We've gotten some Fallout thing, some big Fallout thing, even if it's not quite the video game that we were hoping for, but it's at least something to keep us entertained with Fallout stuff. Keep Fallout in the minds of people without actually having a game to give people.
My opinion on it is I would have rather this be an action-adventure game. If this is the story you really want to tell, if you really want to tell the story of Lucy looking for her dad and the ghoul being a fucking cowboy and doing a bunch of drugs, if you really want to tell that story, make it an action-adventure game.
I think a lot of people would prefer an action-adventure game.
Just
as
don't
opposed to a
call
TV
it.
show.
Don't call it a role-playing game. Like I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is a great game. I think it's got a really cool story to it, but I wouldn't call it a role-playing game.
Okay.
And if they had sold it as a role-playing game, I wouldn't fucking like it.
Well, they didn't have the time or the energy or I guess maybe the budget to have a company or a subsidiary working on another game. And so if there's going to be a dearth of Fallout and they can fill it with a Fallout TV show.
I do really think that a lot of the decisions they made on this specifically were because Todd Howard fucking hates Fallout New Vegas.
I do not get that vibe at all.
Oh, I really do. I really do.
I do
Then
not.
why is it that everything revolving around Fallout New Vegas was basically written out of the show or destroyed?
I didn't get that vibe at all.
Anything, let me rephrase that. Anything that wasn't revolving around Fallout 3, Fallout 4, or Fallout 76, because those are the ones that Bethesda worked on.
Before the TV show, I might have been more inclined to agree with you, but after watching the TV show and listening to some of the interviews, I get that vibe less. In episode 6, episode 6 is the episode where I criticized the blackboard, the lore getting molded and like that, but they also showed the new California flag, and they played that familiar sting that I've heard thousands of times, and that got to me a little bit. It's pretty easy.
Well, see, it worked then.
The
worked. Propaganda worked, Mike.
Yeah, it worked.
The propaganda worked.
And they showed Mr. House and the other.
I've been seeing a lot of absolutely fucking brain dead takes online about Mr. House being in the show.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm glad he is. I'm glad they didn't just completely forget about him. That he definitely would exist pre-war.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that he was there, and I've seen a lot of people being like, they made Mr. House a caricature of this, and it's like, no, he's there because it's a meeting of all of these business heads. You can very clearly tell that he doesn't want to be there, and that he's also way fucking smarter than anybody else in that room. And you can tell that he's a megalomaniacal crazy person. But yeah, so I've seen a bunch of brain dead takes. It's like, he just wants more money. And it's like, yeah, he says there's a lot of money to be made in the end of the world, but he's saying it as like oh, this is really what you're doing, huh? You're really going to orchestrate the end of the world for what?
Yeah.
More money?
Yeah.
That's what you guys want? Because Mr. House doesn't actually care about money. Money is a means to an end for him. He doesn't give a shit about money. What he cares about is power and having everyone under his thumb.
Right.
That's the only thing Mr. House cares about. Anyway, he's in the show for 30 fucking seconds. Why do I care about this?
I enjoyed what little teasers they had for New Vegas. Just like I enjoyed all the references they had to existing Fallout stuff. You see the cram, you see the stim packs actually being used like stim packs.
Yeah,
that felt good.
Just, to me, all of that felt like pandering and remember berries.
It's either one or the other with you. Either you can't show stuff from the video games in the TV show because that's pandering, or you don't show it, and then it's not even a Fallout game.
I'm not saying it's either one or the other for me. I'm just saying they did a lot of remember the thing. Look, remember.
They did some of that, absolutely.
They did a lot of that.
They made a lot of references. They showed a lot of stuff that's in the Fallout world, thanks to the Fallout video games we know is there. They're showing it being used in the scenarios where they would be used. And it's not always in your face, but just like some guy's eating cram. I recognize that. That's cram. Oh, Lucy's using a stim pack. Yep. She needed to get some medical treatment, and a stim pack is a good way to do that. That's great. There was a lot to like about this show. I really did enjoy it, and based on a lot of people's reactions, it definitely appeals to a significant portion of people. I think even people that don't like it can admit that it was better than they anticipated, but not everyone is going to like it. It's not going to be for everyone.
I mean, I will admit that it is better than I thought it was going to be, but I thought it was going to be hot shit. So, yeah, it's better than I thought it would be. I will admit that it was well acted and that everything looked like Fallout. They had some interesting ideas, but ultimately I really didn't like it. I felt like they took way too many liberties with established canon that they didn't need to take liberties with. Because basically what they did is the ending of Fallout New Vegas, it has to be the Mr. House ending.
Does it though?
It has to be the Mr. House ending. Like it has to be an independent Vegas ending. Because it wouldn't make any sense for the NCR to have taken over Vegas at that point. They set in stone that the ending of Fallout 4 has to be either the Brotherhood of Steel or the Minuteman ending. It can't be the Institute ending, and it can't be the Railroad ending. It's got to be one of those, because that is literally the Pridwin. That is literally the Pridwin. I remember when we talked about the thing previously, and I was like, the Pridwin is in this, and people were like, they have multiple airships, which is true. They do have multiple airships, but this is literally the Pridwin.
It says Pridwin on the sign if you zoom in really closely.
It literally is the Pridwin.
I do believe that maybe they were originally going to go with the Pridwin, and then they decided to try and pretend it wasn't, but they left the emblazoned letters on the side of the plane.
Yup.
It's just a Pridwin brand airship.
Yup.
It's just a brand name for that kind of airship, of which there are several.
I'm very smug about that. Very smug about that.
You see, it wouldn't bother me, even if they did establish canonical... They've said they're not trying to do that. They're trying to let people have their things. And even if they did establish...
No, they didn't, because Todd is like, no, this is canon. This is canon. The show is canon.
I don't believe...
He has said that. Todd Howard has said the show is canon.
Okay. Well, in subsequent entries in the Fallout games, they say, oh, this is what happened in Fallout 1. And yeah, Fallout 1, Dogmeat dies in a laser grid. That's canon. And it's like, does that ruin Fallout 1's role-playing? No, because if you judge these games in their individual aspects, people worry too much about lore and overarching canon. Yeah, if the events of this TV show said that the NCR were wiped out, Shady Shands was destroyed, the events of New Vegas never even happened, that would have sucked. But I think I still would have been able to enjoy the TV show.
Oh, I absolutely would not have.
Oh, no, people would have lost their minds. But I think I'd still be able to enjoy this TV show.
I wouldn't have. I think most people would not have been able to enjoy the TV show. Most people would have been fucking pissed.
I know. People get really up in arms about their canon and their precious lore and stuff like that. But the games themselves are muddy. The games themselves contradict each other all the time.
I don't know.
Do ghouls have to eat? No, because they can just stay in a refrigerator or be buried underground for a year and be totally fine.
Okay, well, I'm gonna push back on you with the thing of the ghoul in the refrigerator, because that makes no fucking sense.
Right.
That's in Fallout 4. That makes no fucking sense.
Right.
And that is, again, Bethesda just being like, yeah, I don't care about the established lore. That's Emil not knowing how to fucking write, is what that is.
And in the Fallout TV show, ghouls have to take vials to not become ghouls, which is a new thing. And also they can survive an arrow to the neck, I guess, because of radiation.
That's whatever.
It's dumb and it doesn't work with the established lore, but the TV show, in isolation, I enjoyed.
What other points do I have? Oh, yeah, like, why the fuck did they give the power armor Iron Man rockets? Complete with, like, the... complete with the Marvel movie Iron Man inside the helmet camera.
Yeah.
Of that dude.
They did. That very much more like Iron Man, isn't it? The jetpack hands.
What? Again, I know why. Remember, you guys like Marvel movies, right? Do you like Marvel movies? Look, this is like Marvel movie. Because they think you're stupid. They think you're stupid. I think the show would have been better as an action-adventure game. Failing that, I think the show would have been better if they could have just set it in a new place.
You know, that would have been nice too.
That would have been perfect, because if you set it in a new place, you don't have to fuck with the established lore. You can make up new lore. You can make up new lore, and maybe you can even have it tie in to the established lore. They could have set it in a new place. They've never done anything in the Pacific Northwest. You could have set it in Texas. You still want it to be in the desert? It's in Texas.
Oh, if they put it in Texas, it might contradict the lore of Brotherhood of Steel or Tactics or whichever game takes place in Texas.
But yeah, they chose to place it in Los Angeles and just completely... Was it LA?
I think so, yeah.
I think
generally around.
Oh yeah, because it's by Hollywood. You're in Hollywood, so it's in LA. I know I shouldn't look at that and see malicious intent, but that's what I see. When I look at it, when they go, oh, it takes place in Los Angeles. Really? That's where you're putting it? The same place as the Fallout games that aren't made by you?
Yeah. Just stick to the East Coast. That's what you're good at.
Yeah. They could have set it in the East Coast. Then the Prydwen's still there. Then it makes sense.
Yeah. If they put it on the East Coast, it would tie in well to Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, which both take place on the East Coast, which are the games you want people to play, right? So it is a bit of a weird decision that they put it on the West Coast to revisit Shady Sands and some of the New Vegas areas.
Yeah. I have a few other complaints about stuff, but it's like, it's nitpicky little plot hole bullshit that doesn't actually fucking matter. And it's just like, it's whatever.
Nitpicky things. I saw something about how the vaults 32 or 33 are just kind of out there in the open, very prominent, and like the master is supposed to be looking for these vaults, and they're all supposed to be well hidden, and then these vaults are just kind of, these two vaults are just kind of out here. The master just never found them, I guess. Yeah, even though they're in LA, you know.
I wonder why they didn't address anything about the master's army. Part of me thinks that they were like, oh, well, that's not really important to the story we're trying to tell. And the other part of me thinks they fucking forgot.
Oh, Zach, if they actually talked about the master, that'd just be member berries. That would just be pandering. We can't have that. It's an 8-hour TV show. They're not going to be able to squeeze in references to everything.
When I say this stuff is member berries, I mean when they're going out of their way to show you a specific thing, and it's not in there for any reason other than they're trying to show it to you. Mm-hmm.
If somebody is going to eat some
when they
food,
put the stim pack noise in there and they make it louder than the stim pack noise actually would be, to me, that is a member berry.
Okay.
If it had been he uses the stim pack on him, or he says, give me a stim pack, and you can hear the noise, but it's not, like, super loud.
And I admit it can be done poorly, but I think it's done well. If you're going to have some food, if you're going to have some pre-war food that you're eating to survive, and you make it cram, that fits. If you need medical attention, you got a stim pack, it makes the stim pack noise, that makes sense.
Also, I'm a little confused by why everyone, when the show first came out and I was looking at like reviews of the show, there were a bunch of people being like, oh, it's got all of Fallout's classic violence. And it's like, when I think of Fallout, that's not the first thing I think of. I don't think of Bloody Mess Perk as the first thing I think of when I think of Fallout. So I don't really know where everyone was getting that from. I don't know why everyone was like, oh man, it's so violent. Yeah. And it's like, the show isn't that violent.
No, there are bits of gore here and there.
Also, I'm kind of jumping around right now.
Sure.
I think the actor Matt Berry is hilarious. That guy's voice is great. He played all of the Mr. Handy robots in the TV show. Why didn't they get the guy that did the voice of the Mr. Handy robots?
I don't know.
Why didn't they get Nick Valentine? I forget what the actor's name is, because it's the guy that played Nick Valentine is the same guy that voices Mr. Handy.
Okay.
Why didn't they get him to do all the robots?
I couldn't tell you. Maybe he's specifically in a voice actors guild and he can't do actual acting, or maybe they couldn't give. There's a number of reasons why they didn't.
There's probably a bunch of different reasons. I feel like I do, again, tinfoil hat conspiracy time. I think Todd Howard wants to be a Hollywood executive. He doesn't want to make video games anymore. He wants to be Mr. Cool Guy in Hollywood, which is why they got a bunch of these actors and they made the whole TV show, and he was present for so much of it.
The TV show was good. I think that actor did a great job. I enjoyed his performances.
I'm not saying he did a bad job. He did a great job. It was just kind of like, why didn't they get Steven Russell to voice the Mr. Handy robots? Like, they could have. Unless he had like some kind of scheduling contract, I'm willing to bet he probably would have been willing to voice the robots.
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway.
But I think this voice actor did a great job.
No, Matt Berry did a great job. I'm not saying he did a bad job. It's just kind of like, this is the voice you've had for all of them. It's like when Metal Gear Solid 5 came out and you didn't have David Hayter play Solid Snake.
Yeah, that did suck.
That's because Hideo Kojima's a star fucker, and he wanted to do something with
James Sutherland, was it?
Kiefer Sutherland.
It's
because Hideo Kojima wanted to do something with Kiefer Sutherland. That's why.
And that sucks.
Like, and I know I'm changing topics here, but like, you could have had Kiefer Sutherland, because spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 5, Venom Snake is not Big Boss. They're two completely different people. You could have had Kiefer Sutherland voice Venom Snake for the entire thing, and then at the very end of the game, when Big Boss shows up, it's voiced by David Hayter. You could have done that. That would have been amazing. The fans would have been like, "Oh shit! Now that's why he doesn't doesn't sound like that.
Okay.
Oh my god, that would have been amazing. But no, they didn't do that. They just had Kiefer Sutherland voice everybody.
Right, and that's a different thing entirely. That's unfortunate. But when you're going from different mediums, there's all sorts of... It could just be a scheduling conflict. It could just be he's in a different union.
No.
It could just be... It could very well just be a union thing. I know Husband Hotel pilot came out. Everyone really liked it. And then all the voices changed when it got turned into a TV show because you had to be in the union for the TV show.
I saw quite a few people on Twitter were like, why aren't Zach and Mike in this show? I want Zach and Mike to be... Zach and Mike better be in season 2.
It's very kind of you. Thank you.
Todd, I guarantee you Todd Howard does not know either one of us exist.
If he does...
I guarantee you...
If he does, it's because he watched this podcast to hear our opinions on it, just so we could just give him an earful for an hour.
I guarantee you he doesn't know either one of us exists. But you know what? If they want to contact me and have me come out there and do that, I'll get my SAG card. I'll fucking do that shit.
Hell yeah, I'll fly back out to Nevada.
I'll do that shit for a SAG card.
See y'all at the Good Spring Saloon.
Well, they're not gonna film it in Nevada. They're not gonna film on location. Well, they might in Hollywood.
They're gonna film Nevada in New Zealand. Yeah.
They could have done better. I really think they could have done better.
Sure.
The discourse I've seen about the show has been incredibly divisive. It's either they love this show and they think it's the greatest thing ever and the sun shines out of Todd Howard's ass and this is the best thing ever, or they absolutely fucking hate it and then everyone just starts ripping them apart in the comments.
I feel like the majority opinion on this show is that it's not perfect, but it's a 9 out of 10. A lot of people really enjoy it. They think it did really well, very strong showing.
Like, I give it a 6 out of 10.
Not everyone agrees.
I think it's just whatever.
If you're like Zach and you think all this stuff is pandering and you think it's just member berries, then yeah, you're not going to look favorably upon it. But if you're like me and you're tickled pink every time they make a reference to the games, you can pick things out, you recognize sounds, just musical cues can bubble some stuff up inside me. Yeah, okay, yeah, that gets me, it makes me happy.
I mean, that's the only reason they put that in there was to be like, look, and then
the Fallout TV show had Fallout stuff in it, and I loved it.
The biggest comparison I've seen, whenever people are talking about the show, and it's usually people that are just like, I think it's people that didn't particularly care for the show, but they didn't hate it. And they're like, it was okay. I mean, it's definitely a lot better than the Halo TV show. Which, like, yeah, okay, but that's a really fucking low... the bar for that is so low it's in hell.
Yeah.
It's not a great comparison to make.
Yeah, you shouldn't be comparing yourself to people that did poorly. You should be trying to aspire to be really good.
And that's kind of one of the points that I would bring up, is if this show looked like the Halo TV show, would people still like it? And I don't think they would.
I don't know much about the Halo TV show.
It's not good.
Oh, does it not look good either?
It's the whole thing is just kind of shit from top to bottom. Yeah, like those are just like my primary complaints. Why did you make Vault Tech the big bad guy, and why did you make them cartoonishly evil? Mm-hmm. Like, there's not really a good reason to do that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
You could have honestly, the show could have like picked any one of the 3 main stories that they're doing. I would say that the show could have done like the story of Vault 33 or Lucy's story or the Ghoul story. They could have taken any one of those and made the entire show just about that one character or that one area. And that would have been, in my opinion, I think that would have been an even cooler or better show. They could have made the Fallout TV show like the fucking Mandalorian, but it's about the Ghoul doing bounties and shit.
Sure.
And then also kind of trying to piece together what happened pre-war. They could have done that. That would have been a really interesting show.
You didn't like how they were bouncing around from A to B story to C
well,
story?
I mean, it's a TV show. They do that all the time. I'm not trying to make this about me, but for me, fucking ADHD brain, it's sometimes it's difficult to follow a show when it's like, we're following 3 or 4 separate characters and what's happening to each one of them over the course of 1 hour.
And the Ghoul and the Brotherhood of Steel soldier Maximus, and then also the Enclave soldier sometimes. Yeah, it bounces around quite a lot.
I personally am a big fan of the micro versus macro when it comes to storytelling. I don't really like when it's like, we're gonna save the world. I don't like that kind of macro story. I like a micro story of, this is what happened to this group of people or this one individual. I think that, to me, is more interesting.
Sure.
It means that you can really, like, focus down on one specific thing. Personally, that's what I would have liked to have seen in the Fallout TV show, is a more macro focus on one specific character and not like, these are the greater lore implications for the entire Fallout universe. If they had made the Fallout TV show about one person trying to survive in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, you can still have all the Fallout tie-ins, you can have the stim packs, you can have the fucking cram, you can have references to vault tech.
Sure.
They can go into a vault at one point. But then you don't need it to have all of these greater lore implications that the show was like dead set on putting into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion. I didn't particularly care for it. I think they did a really good job with the acting, the set design. To me, it seems like just throwing away most of the lore for no reason other than driving engagement and because Todd Howard wanted to.
And that's the big thing that sticks in your craw. The show itself seems to be pretty good, but the way it ties in lore and muddles everything up, that's kind of unforgivable for you. It just really ruins the entire experience.
I'd say it's unforgivable, but yeah, it definitely doesn't make me really want to watch it.
Doesn't endear you.
No. It's like, I watched it once. Am I ever going to watch it again? Probably not. But to be completely honest, most people aren't going to watch it again.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get this out relatively quickly because next month no one's talking about the show anymore.
Fair enough, yeah.
That's just how stuff works now, though. Mm-hmm. It's like, in a couple of weeks, no one's going to be talking about the show anymore. They're going to have moved on to whatever else.
Yeah.
The show has been renewed for a second season. I'm not going to watch it.
Didn't you say that about the first season, though?
I felt like I was obligated to watch the first season. If I wasn't a Fallout content creator, I would not have watched it.
Okay. You're not looking forward to the second season when it comes
really.
out in 2 years?
I don't care. Like,
2 years is a lot of time. Things can happen. Who knows?
Yeah. They might not even, like, there might be some weird budgetary thing, or Hollywood actually gets nuked.
Or they'll realize that after they've produced the entire second season, it'll be more financially beneficial for them to just never release it, like with Coyote versus Acme.
Oh, man. Yeah, I forgot about that. Again, everyone forgetting about that. Didn't that get, like, illegally released online and everyone downloaded it?
I don't believe so. I've not seen it.
Oh, I thought it, like, illegally got released online or something.
Nope, I believe it's in the vault, and no, it's just not for us. No one's gonna see it.
I just wish that they would actually make more fucking Fallout games.
Mm-hmm.
Make another Fallout game. Stop making your fucking TV show, Todd.
Outsource your game development like you did. Last time it worked very well.
Yeah, last time it went incredibly well. No, then we're not making money and people are mad at my story.
Last time you showed up and a different company handled your IP better, so maybe try that again. Maybe you'll strike gold twice.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of stuff online that's really funny to me. That's like, yeah, Fallout, brand new Fallout fans getting introduced to Fallout the two worst ways possible. One, the TV show. Two, Fallout 4.
Yeah, people.
The TV show was kind of interesting. I wonder if I want to play Fallout 4. Oh wow, this sucks too. Oh man.
Fallout 4 is a good game. Fallout 4 is a very enjoyable game.
Fallout 4 is a very enjoyable game, but the story is bullshit. The story is bullshit. The fucking random legendaries is bullshit.
I'm not saying it's perfect.
The game crashes all the fucking time. Like, you can't actually make any real decisions in that game, and I fucking love it, and I have like 2,000 hours in it.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing I always say about Fallout 4 is a really fun game. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun to play. It's a fucking bad Fallout game, though.
It's a bad role-playing game.
And it's a bad role-playing game. But it's fun. I enjoy playing it. Do I regret the time I put into Fallout 4? No. Do I regret the time I put into Starfield? Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Do I regret recommending people play Starfield? Absolutely I do.
Okay.
I still feel bad about that.
Fallout 4 is a much higher bar. You said you got your money's worth. You said you enjoyed it for the first few hours. You recommend that game to people. That's
I don't recommend that game to people. If you can get that game for like $20, give it a try.
You might be able to get $10 worth of fun out of it, sure.
Yeah.
So it's definitely stimulated interest in the franchise again. You say Fallout TV show came out, people are going to forget about it, it's going to be nothing, but every time a new Fallout thing comes out, people are going to talk about those games and the TV show again, so it'll just have spikes. It'll just resurge every once in a while when the second season comes up. The interest in the first season will come up, people will watch that again.
This show did the same thing that Edgerunners did for Cyberpunk 2077. I don't know if you remember, but when Cyberpunk 2077 came out, people were real fucking mad at that game. They were real mad at CD Projekt Red because the game was buggy as shit. It wasn't actually an RPG.
I've not played it since
Cyberpunk 2077 is an RPG in the same way that Fallout 4 is an RPG.
I see. So it's missing a lot of key elements.
It's missing a lot of key elements. There's really not many decisions you get to make in the game. There's a few, but they're not major.
Okay.
It's like who you romance and what ending you get. Those are
Okay.
basically the only decisions you get to make.
Sure.
People were real fucking mad at that game. And then Cyberpunk Edgerunners came out, and everyone suddenly forgot about all the problems that Cyberpunk had, and Cyberpunk is now the greatest game ever made.
It wasn't just the release of Edgerunners, it was also the fact that they'd put in effort. Cyberpunk 76 has had improvements since then.
Yeah, but Edgerunners did the same thing for Cyberpunk 2077 that the Fallout TV show is doing for Fallout in general. It's getting a bunch of people to play it again.
Yeah, which I'm sure was their intention. I'm sure they're really happy about that.
It just seems sleazy and underhanded to me. Your product should be able to stand up on its own. It shouldn't need a supporting TV show.
Well, not everything is going to be its own intellectual property. People are interested in the franchise. People are going to want more things in the franchise.
I know. An example of what I mean about Remember Berries is like they made the dog look like dog meat. And the dog is named Dog Meat.
Yeah, they throw his name in there.
Why?
And
It could have been any kind of dog.
the thing is, I thought they were doing a different member berry around episode 2 because I think the ghoul called the dog Four. I'm like, Four? Is that Four Dog? Is that Four Dog? You made a reference to Four Dog? Is that what that's going on?
That's what I mean about Member Berries.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you could have made the dog a Golden Retriever. You could have made the dog a Rottweiler. You could have made it a Doberman Pinscher. You could have made it Belgian Malinois. You could have made it a whatever. It could have been anything, but you made it a German Shepherd.
And that's fine, but
And then you called it
you didn't have to call it
Dog
dog
Meat.
meat. Not every dog is named Dog Meat.
I guess maybe in the post-apocalyptic Fallout world, every dog is named Dog Meat until it earns a different name.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I also
Whenever I play Fallout 4, if I bring Dog Meat with me, I never refer to him as Dog Meat. When it shows up the option of, I'm going to call you Dog Meat, or whatever that option is, I never pick that one.
If you don't bring Dog Meat to Mama Murphy, he never gets named Dog Meat. He's just always Dog.
Dog.
But then occasionally there are people that have assumed that he's going to be called Dog Meat because that's what his name is in the script, so they call him Dog Meat. Like, that's not his name. He didn't get that name.
Yeah, I didn't call him that name. What, are you mad at him? Why are you calling him by his Christian name? His name is Dog, okay? You refer to him as Dog. Mm-hmm. That's like my name is Zach, but when people call me Zachary, I'm like, are you mad at me? What did I do? Fuck you.
Okay. So, little nitpicky stuff. In episode 1, one of the first conclusions that Lucy jumps to, she sees her new husband drinking water and he's got scars on his back and she hears some gunfire. She goes, oh no, raiders. Like, that was the first thing that came to her mind.
Yeah,
like,
how would she know about raiders?
You just went over the fact, your overseer father just said that you haven't had any contact with the outside world. Why is raiders one of the first things that jumps to your mind? You were so eager to jump to that. I know as an omniscient viewer to the series, I know about raiders, but you shouldn't know. You shouldn't immediately jump to that assumption.
I was incredibly disgusted by after 20 years of cousin fooling, this is gonna be great. I was absolutely disgusted by that. That was like, that's fucking gross. That's really gross.
It didn't.
Like, you didn't have to go there, okay? We know. I get it.
I laughed, and then I saw my girlfriend Anne's reaction when she saw that scene, and it made me laugh even harder.
Like, that's disgusting. The fact that, what was it, Vault 32 was just, like, immediately cleaned, or, no, Vault 33 is just, like, immediately cleaned out afterwards.
That's the 32nd one, yeah. Vault 32 was just immediately cleaned, yeah.
I forget which vault it was, but yeah, it's just like, all the raiders in there are dead, and then, oh wait, no, now it's clean.
Yeah, when they first showed that reveal, I thought, is everyone being pranked? Is this some kind of thing where the short guy went in there and saw everything being destroyed and he ran back to tell everybody, and then when they all came back through the second time, it's all cleaned up and it's a big old conspiracy? But I guess not really. They just
that would have been an interesting thing. Again, if you had the whole show set in the vault, that would have been an interesting thing to figure out. Is everyone going crazy? What's going on? Why is the vault like this? That would have been cool.
Yeah.
How did the vault get taken over by raiders and they never told the other vault?
Yeah.
How did that fucking happen?
Mm-hmm. Why did the Enclave man and his dog come face to face with the turret, and it aimed at them and fired 1,000 bullets, and he shambled off slowly and not a single bullet hit him or his dog?
How does he keep running into Lucy in the middle of a fucking desert?
Yeah, all the characters meet each other up again. The dog gets placed in a box in a gas station, then another character walks by that exact same gas station, or one of the main three.
There's a lot of, like, MacGuffin shit that I don't like. It's a lot of, we gotta get the characters to the set piece. How do we do it? They just show up there.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that's what we're doing. It's that kind of stuff really irritates me, but it's like, I have to put it aside to be like, why are you fucking with my lore? Anyway.
So I still have my criticisms and critiques of it as well. As I'm able to enjoy it as a whole, but I don't think it's flawless.
You know what one of the things that they did
Was that?
that I didn't think I would like, but I was kind of appreciative of, is that even though they kept the Fallout 4 assault rifle in the TV show, which I hate,
I know.
they made it way bigger.
So it actually feels like it might fit in the arms of a power armor.
So it looks like it might be belt fed, and it's just the drum mag that's on the side of it in Fallout 4 is actually just a belt. Is like a belt container.
So they kept the bad design, but they improved it a bit more to be less silly.
Yeah. If I was working on Fallout 4 and I was like, we're gonna be fucking brave. We're gonna be brave here. When you're in power armor, you can't use these are the weapons you can use when you're in power armor. You can't use the 10mm pistol when you're in power armor. Because that's a pistol for a normal hand.
And there's a giant glove here.
The Fallout 4 assault rifle, you can't use that unless you're in power armor. And it's not an assault rifle, it's a belt-fed machine gun. You can't use it unless you're in power armor, or if you have a strength of 10, then you can use it.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking massive. Make it in 50 cal. Make it a fucking 50 BMG belt-fed machine gun that you're just carrying around when you're in power armor. That's one of the things that I did think was kind of funny about Fallout 4 is that when you first get the power armor, when you go to the Museum of Freedom and you climb up there, if you have 10 strength, you can literally rip the minigun off of the helicopter and just use it.
Really?
Without being in power armor. If you have 10 strength, you can just pick it up and just go and just use the minigun without being in the power armor.
See, I didn't know about that.
Which is actually kind of funny.
That's a fun little role-playing thing that I didn't know about that game.
There are nuggets of good role-playing stuff in Fallout 4, but it feels like a lot of it was pushed away because it would take too long to do it.
It's easier to streamline a lot of things.
So,
I will say there were some things in the trailer that seemed bad, and they weren't as bad in the show. And sometimes in the interviews as well, it seemed like it was going to be bad. Like, they told us that we were going to learn the backstory of the Vault Boys' history, and that doesn't sound interesting at all. We were kind of skeptical of that. But the way it was done in the show was fine.
No, that was fine.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the trailer, I heard that line, why do you want to join the Brotherhood? To hurt the people that hurt me. And it sounded so awful in the TV show's trailer. But in the show itself, it made a bit more context. It didn't have the booming, intimidating back. It wasn't supposed to be a badass line, to hurt the people who hurt me. It was some guy who was trying to confess. That's why I joined the Brotherhood, to hurt the people who hurt me. It made more sense, and the trailer did a bit of a disservice in that regard.
Anyway, that's it. I don't really have anything else to say about it.
And I don't think I have anything else to say about the TV show either.
My recommendation is don't watch the TV show, read a book.
And my recommendation is watch the first few episodes of the TV show, see if it's your kind of thing. You don't have to watch the entire thing. It's not a commitment, but go ahead and try it out. See if it's for you.